A few weeks ago, my father, who had been battling illness, passed away. I wish I could have shown him his grandchildren. Such words escaped my lips along with a sigh. I got married when I was 25, exactly 5 years ago. At my wedding, my father and I made a promise. I'll let you know first when I get pregnant. But that promise remained unfulfilled. And that's about the only regret I have about my father. Since his illness was discovered a year ago, I've done everything I could for him. I regularly returned to my parents' home and visited the hospital with my mother. I increased the frequency of phone calls and video chats. I did everything I could think of. Still, I can't help but wonder, could I have done more? I muttered. My mother sitting next to me reassured me. You did well, Katrina, really. Yes, your father would be satisfied, my mother continued. Just then, my sister Portia returned, bringing the lawyer. My sister entered the living room, saying so behind her was a man in his mid-40s. I assumed he was the lawyer, and he handed me his business card. I'm Samuel, the attorney. Thank you for coming. Please have a seat. Excuse me, my mother guided the lawyer Joseph to his seat. As soon as he sat down, my sister blurted out, I heard from this lawyer that Dad left quite an inheritance. It's not all for you, Havana. I know that, I replied. My sister, now in a bad mood, glared at me. I glared back. My sister and I don't get along. We used to be okay, but things turned sour when we found out about Dad's illness. One reason was my sister's arrogant attitude. No matter how many times I reached out, she never visited our father. Of course, I may have said it wrong. I might have been a bit harsh because I was worried about him, I thought. But her reaction was also a problem. You're not a child. You don't have to be so stubborn, I said. My sister retorted, I'm not being stubborn. I live in the city. It's not easy to come to the countryside. But you can get here in 2 hours by car, I countered. Those 2 hours are tough. It costs money, she replied. It's money that's important to you, of course, I sighed. I'm busy, so stop contacting me, she declared, and with that, she finally stopped talking. Even if she lives far away, she could visit once in a while. I'd always thought so. That's why our relationship deteriorated so quickly. In the end, my sister never visited our father, so our relationship remained strained. Sensing the tension, the lawyer intervened. Let's calm down, please. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I interjected, trying to diffuse the tension. My sister nodded in acknowledgement, and the lawyer continued. As I mentioned on the phone, I have your husband's will. When did this happen? My mother murmured, her voice soft with emotion. A few weeks before he passed away, the lawyer replied. He contacted me, so you went to the hospital. Yes, I had him write the will in front of me. With his primary physician present, the lawyer explained. It turns out they had arranged for the primary physician to contact the lawyer when my father passed away. So, after my father passed away, he contacted the lawyer in turn. The lawyer reached out to us. That's how it happened and why I'm contacting you now, I clarified, nodding in understanding. The lawyer nodded in agreement before continuing. This is the will. He pulled out a white envelope and placed it in front of us. That's definitely Dad's handwriting, I muttered, verifying the characters on the envelope. My sister seemed a bit agitated, saying, Never mind, just tell us what's in it. I'm busy, you know. The lawyer replied, Very well. He opened the envelope, revealing a single piece of paper. This is what was written there. As I read through the will, it stated that besides the house and land, my father's inheritance included some savings and a storage shed. We knew about the house and land, but what's this about a storage shed? I wondered aloud. My sister, growing more irritated, demanded, Wait a minute, you didn't mention the farm. The farm? Yes, the farm Dad used to work on as a hobby, I explained. My father used to run a company in the next town, but after turning 50, he began to feel his age. I'm thinking of closing the company. I want to take it easy. Is that okay? My father had asked us, his concern evident in his eyes. Reluctantly, my sister agreed. After my mother and I reassured her, "Don't worry about the money, Portia. We have enough savings." After that, my father really did close his company and started farming near our home. "It feels good to move my body while farming," he said, looking genuinely happy. Seeing him like that, I felt glad I had agreed. However, my sister didn't seem to feel the same. She had said she would return home after graduating from college. But instead, she got a job near her university. Eventually, she married the CEO of an IT company she met through work. Anyway, that's why father was farming until he got sick, I explained, noting my sister's absence from the farm. My sister insists that the farm should also be part of the inheritance, I continued. The lawyer reviewed the documents, and after hearing this from my sister, he quickly found a note and said, "The farm is rented land." "Rented? I thought we own a large piece of land," my sister said, disappointed. Indeed, the farm my father grew vegetables on was spacious, but it might be too much for us who know nothing about farming. "Maybe it's good that it's rented," I mused. The conversation then shifted to dividing the inheritance. As for the division of the inheritance, the house and land go to the wife, the lawyer said, glancing at my mother. "So we can divide the rest however we want. Please divide the savings and storage shed between you two." "Savings mean cash, right? I'll take the cash. How much is it?" my sister inquired. "The savings amount to about $100,000. There's no need to pay inheritance tax for this amount," the lawyer informed us. "Then I'll take the $100,000 in cash," my sister declared triumphantly. But I couldn't agree with such a selfish arrangement. "Wait a minute," I object. "Why?" "I'm the oldest daughter," I protested. "That's irrelevant. You can have the storage shed," my sister retorted, dismissing my objection. "What even is that anyway?" she asked the lawyer. "The storage shed next to the phone. You'll inherit the building, the land, and its contents," the lawyer clarified. My sister's eyes lit up at the mention of land. Even though she's married to the CEO of an IT company, does she still want more money? I wondered silently. The lawyer continued, "But it's about 65 square feet, roughly the size of a small bedroom." "A small bedroom?" "Yes, here are the photos," the lawyer added, placing photos of the shed on the table. The exterior clearly looked like a rundown shack, and the interior contained only basic tools like hoses, scissors, and shovels, nothing that seemed valuable. "I don't want it," my sister grimaced, examining the photos. "I painted the photos too. It was all very ordinary. These are sentimental items, but they won't bring in money," she concluded. As I was thinking this, my sister spoke up. "Fine. I'll take the cash. You can have that dirty shed." "Hold on, that's not fair. You agreed to the vegetable farming. What are you complaining about now?" I protested, feeling the weight of injustice. It was hard to argue when she put it that way. Still, if I didn't say something, she'd take all of Dad's inheritance, I thought, struggling to find the right words. "So we're good then?" my sister pressed, looking at me expectantly. My mother chimed in. "As long as Havana won't complain later, I have no objections." There's no way I would. Then, Havana gets the cash, and Katrina gets the shed. "Okay, it's settled then." My sister grinned, feeling satisfied with the arrangement. Feeling uneasy, I immediately objected. "Well, I'm not satisfied." My sister scoffed. "Oh, give it up. But you're so greedy, aren't you?" "That's not it. You're such a hassle. You care more about Dad than money, right?" My sister's words left me speechless. Of course, family is more important than money. Money is important, but it's not something to compare with family. While I was thinking this, my sister quickly ended the conversation. In the end, my mother got the house and land, my sister got Dad's savings, and all that was left for me was the dirty shed. After that, my sister signed a document promising not to complain about the inheritance division, laughing loudly as she did so. I was full of complaints. I couldn't help but vent to my mother. "Mom, why didn't you help me?" I lamented. "I did help you." "How?" "You decided with Havana," my mother replied calmly. "That's not true. I made sure you got the shed," my mother explained. Huh. I'm not happy about getting that shed. I sighed in frustration. You might find something surprisingly good if you look closely, my mother said with a smile, trying to cheer me up. I could only puff out my cheeks in response. The next day, I took the key from the lawyer and headed to the shed near the field. It was a 10-minute walk from home, along a rural road where no one else passed by. Finally, I reached the field my father had rented for the past year. He had been hospitalized, so the field was empty. I'd opened the shed with the key, and as I stepped inside, I was greeted by a cloud of dust. The shed was quite dusty, probably because no one had cleaned it. Still, there might be something sentimental from Dad. I thought optimistically as I looked around. But nothing special caught my eye. It was just a dirty shed after all. All I found were tools that we used for farming. They could be considered sentimental, but they weren't anything special. Maybe I should just take what's inside for now, I mumbled, looking around the shed. That's when I noticed something strange. It looks smaller than from the outside, I muttered to myself. Maybe it was the dim light, but the inside of the shed felt a bit cramped. Is it just my imagination? I wondered as I stepped outside the shed, but something still felt off. After pondering for a bit, I decided to walk around to the back of the shed. The backside was adjacent to a thicket of various trees. To my surprise, there was another door there. Wait, another entrance at the back! I gasped in astonishment. When I looked from inside the shed, there was only a wall, meaning the only entrance was the door I had used. Yet from the back, there was a door. What's going on? I pondered. A door on the back should be visible from inside too, but it wasn't. That meant there had to be a wall in between. In other words, there was a space accessible only for the back. The moment I realized this, I got excited. This must be Dad's surprise. Dad always loved surprises. He even surprised me on my birthdays. Memories flooded back, and I found myself tearing up. I quickly returned inside the shed and began searching for the back door key. If it was a surprise from Dad, he would have hidden it somewhere in the shed. With that gut feeling, I rummaged through the shed. After a while, I found 2 keys hidden in the handle of a shovel. I went around to the back and tried one of the keys in the door. With a click, the door opened. The space inside was indeed cramped, only about 3 feet wide. A large safe stood alone in the space. Is this from Dad's company? I wondered aloud. I recognized the safe. It was the same one I saw in the corner of his office when I was a child. Nostalgic, I hugged the safe. This was a true memory of my father, and I felt fulfilled. But knowing Dad, this couldn't be the end. There's got to be more surprises, I thought excitedly. I muttered and inserted the second key into the safe. With a slightly rusty sound, the safe opened. What? No way. The moment I saw the contents, I was stunned. Inside was an unexpected inheritance. What should I do? Oh, I have to tell Mom, I thought urgently. I locked the safe and rushed to my mother. After explaining the situation to her, I called my husband, and with his help, we moved the safe from my parents' house. Then it hit me. The contents of the safe were undoubtedly Dad's. However, if it's part of my inheritance, including the shed, I might have to pay inheritance tax. Better get this checked out thoroughly, I concluded. The contents of the safe were clearly valuable, so I decided to consult the lawyer. Inheritance tax for that? You should, according to the lawyer. It's better to consult a certified public accountant. So I got a referral to an accountant from a friend and left all the complicated matters to them. As a year passed in this way, just when I thought things had finally settled down, my sister showed up near my home. What brings you here all of a sudden? I inquired. Oh, well, I had some business at our parents' house, so I stopped by, she explained vaguely. My sister's behavior was strange, to say the least. No matter how you look at it, even if my home is close to our parents, it is still a 20-minute drive. We're not the kind of sisters who would casually visit, especially after the tension of our dad's inheritance. It's not a relationship that comes into play carelessly. I couldn't shake off my suspicion as I looked at her. Meanwhile, my sister, acting a bit nervous, asked, "Can I come in?" Sure, but what's the matter? I questioned. I have something to talk about, my sister said, forcing a smile. Reluctantly, I let my sister into the house. After I served some coffee, she started to fidget, and then began to speak. So, did you win the lottery or something? She blurted out abruptly. What? No, I didn't, I replied, confused. Then did your husband get a bonus? She prodded further. I tilted my head, puzzled. I never buy lottery tickets because I'm not interested. My husband, who's a salaried worker, does get a holiday bonus, but it's not that time of year. What on earth is she talking about? I thought, utterly perplexed. Confused, I asked her directly, Hey, what are you talking about? Suddenly, my sister got angry. What are you making fun of me? She snapped. No, what are you talking about? Money? Yes, I heard about it, I replied, trying to calm the situation. My sister began to speak excitedly, recounting a story from a few days ago. Living in the city, my sister had run into our aunt by chance. The woman started the conversation like this. I know how hard it's been for you since you lost your father. Are you doing okay? My aunt asked sympathetically. Well, I visited him many times when he was sick. Thank you, I replied, trying to maintain composure. But you must be relieved, right? Getting such a big thank you gift, my aunt continued. Thank you gift? Yes, your sister sent me a $500 gift card as a thank you for visiting him. My mother chimed in, a hint of confusion in her voice. A gift card. Needless to say, what caught my sister's attention was the gift card. Hearing that I had sent it, she was convinced I had come into some extra money. You got a windfall, didn't you? Just admit it. My sister interrogated me. I recounted, feeling annoyed. That's what this is about, I sighed. My sister didn't like my attitude and yelled, What's with that attitude? Are you mocking me? No, it was a thank you gift, I retorted, feeling exasperated. So, where did you get the money for it? That's what I want to know. My sister pressed on, her tone accusatory. From the inheritance, remember? I replied, trying to keep calm. Inheritance. Yes, I got the inheritance. So I sent thank you gifts to relatives who had helped us. I explained patiently. But all you got was that dirty shed, my sister scoffed. Yes, that's true. But there was a safe inside it. That's where the real inheritance was, I clarified. A safe. Real inheritance? My sister seemed puzzled. I carefully explained to her about the watches in the safe. They were all valuable, collected by my father as a hobby during his lifetime. However, I didn't know their exact value. On the other hand, the remaining savings were about $100,000. Considering he was a business owner who could retire early, that amount seemed small. That led me to think he might have invested a lot in those watches, I added. If they're valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax. My mother had warned after seeing the contents of the safe. What should I do, Mom? I asked her. Things like this always come out. You should declare it properly. How? Well, let's ask that lawyer we spoke to recently, my mother suggested. So I consulted the lawyer again. I was told that if you inherit valuables, the inheritance tax is determined by their value at that time. I was also told that a certified public accountant could handle it for me. As a result, it was found that the watches alone were worth at least $500,000. With watches this valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax. How should I pay it? I wondered. How about keeping the ones you're emotionally attached to and selling the rest? The lawyer suggested. Certainly, it doesn't make sense to me, who doesn't know the value, to hold on to such expensive watches. I'd rather someone who understands their worth have them, I reasoned. With that thought, I sold some of the watches and used the money to pay the inheritance tax and send thank you gifts to the relatives who had helped us. By the way, what I kept were items like the pocket watch my father often wore. This one isn't expensive, but it holds the most memories for me, I explained, showing my sister the pocket watch. However, she frowned upon hearing my story. What, you don't have any left? My sister exclaimed, her eyes widening in surprise. No, there were still some in the safe. Where's the safe? I explained. It's at Mom's. The safe is too big for this house. It's the one Dad used at his company. My sister looked away, seeming deep in thought. I felt uneasy seeing her like this. But right after that, she stood up and said, I'm leaving now that I know where the money came from, and left. Considering how money-minded my sister is, I thought she might demand some of the money from the watch sales. I was relieved she left without making a fuss. However, in my relief, I forgot the unease I had felt earlier. My sister isn't that understanding. I had forgotten that. I was reminded of this late that night when I got a call from my mother. Katrina, it's urgent. Come over right away. My mother's voice sounded frantic and unclear. My husband and I rushed to my mother's house. As we approached, we noticed something strange. The area around my parents' house is lit up in red. What's going on? I wondered aloud. The reason became clear as we got closer. Several police cars were parked outside my parents' house. I pushed through the crowd and called out to my mother. What happened, Mom? Well, Katrina, you see. My mother began to explain. According to my mother, it was after 9 p.m. Feeling tired, she had gone to bed already. Soon after, she heard strange noises, sounds like someone searching for something from beyond the door. Oh, it's a burglar, my mother thought instantly. However, she was the only one in the house. Feeling helpless, she decided to escape through the window. Looking back, she saw the light of a flashlight moving inside the house. This is definitely a burglar, she was convinced. She ran to the neighbor's house and called for help. Hearing this, the neighbor immediately came out. They too saw the swinging light my mother was pointing at and called the police, thinking it was a burglar. However, it wasn't a burglar at all. It was my sister who had snuck into the house to rummage through the safe after hearing my story. Neither my mother nor the neighbor had any way of knowing this. Soon, the police arrived, and naturally, my sister was shocked. Realizing she was in trouble, she tried to make a quick escape. Of course, it's her own family home, so there's no need to run. Yet, in her panic, my sister thought she had to escape. In her rush, she bumped into the open door of the safe. Just then, the already unstable safe toppled over, falling right onto her as she tried to flee. So, Havana got trapped under it? I asked, incredulous. Yes, that's what happened. Is she okay? My mother replied, concern evident in her voice. She was taken to the hospital by ambulance, but she keeps saying her leg hurts. What on earth was she thinking? My mother added, truly dumbfounded. Afterward, my mother and I apologized to the police officers who had come to help, feeling bad for calling so late. I also phoned my sister's husband. Wait, you're saying Havana broke into her own family home and got injured? Her husband exclaimed in disbelief. Yes, that's correct, I confirmed. What is Havana doing? She doesn't even do housework. I'm really sorry about my sister. That's it. I'm filing for divorce, her husband declared, clearly frustrated and exasperated. Actually, according to my sister's husband, she had racked up a considerable amount of debt. Apparently, she had been spending a lot on brand name items. He had just found out, and they had a huge fight. In the end, my sister stormed out of the house, saying, I'll borrow from Mom and pay it back. Turns out, she had already used the $100,000 she inherited to pay off her debts. Still short, she came to me to scrounge for more money. Learning about the contents of the safe led to her actions, which in turn led to this whole mess. No wonder her husband was furious. In the end, my sister, who had fractured her leg, was hospitalized. Her husband came to the hospital and started talking about divorce. Naturally, my sister made a scene. I'm not getting a divorce, absolutely not, she protested. But it was too late. Her husband had brought the divorce papers. Seeing them, she had no choice but to sign. Now she's lying in her hospital bed stunned. There's a part-time job magazine next to her, so she's probably planning to start working part-time to pay off her debts. That would be a relief for me. As for me, I decided to move back to my parents' home after all the commotion. Of course, I'm worried about my mother, but there's another reason. I found out I'm pregnant. My husband and I talked it over and decided to move back home and have my mother help us with the children and childcare. I wish I could have told my father about the pregnancy while he was alive, but I'm sure he would be happy for us. So I'm looking forward to giving birth to a healthy baby. I hope you guys enjoy our video. To watch more interesting stories, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.